Hey people, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite movies. And yeah, let's talk about The Godfather, movie released in 1972. So, yesterday I turned 18, and when I turned 17 last year, I saw Parasite by Bong Joon-ho, and it's a really amazing movie. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if on every birthday I watch a great movie? And since I'm turning 18 and it's a really important birthday, apparently, I decided, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to finally watch The Godfather by Francis Ford Coppola, adapted from a novel written by Mario Puzo, starring amazing actors including Marlon Brando and Al Pacino. So, yeah, I've been holding onto this for a while. I know about this movie for like a long time. Ever since I was 14, I know that this movie exists and everyone's talking about this movie like, oh, it's this great movie, greatest movie of all times. But I thought I shouldn't watch this movie when I'm this young, not because it has too much violence or anything, but because I thought I wouldn't understand it or appreciate it as much as I would if I watch it when I am older, say like 18 years old. So I watched this movie, and for sure I'll rewatch this movie. And I thought it's amazing. I thought it's really, really great. However, I don't know why, but it's just not as great as I thought it would be. It just didn't really live up to my expectations at all. And to my surprise, or actually not really, because given that this is more of an art film than an actual action drama, um, it's actually not a very accessible movie. So don't go into this movie thinking that it's going to be action and tension and suspense on every single scene. It's not. There is a lot of talking in this movie. There's like, I don't know, like, this movie is basically 60% talking, 40% violence. And when these violence happens, they happen. That's all. You won't see two groups of people having a gunfight in the middle of a street. You wouldn't see chases. You wouldn't see car chases. It's a very realistic movie, and the depiction of violence is very realistic. When violence happens, it happens. It's not like the main character will pull something out of nowhere and save the day or something. When it happens, it happens. End of story. Everything moves on. So the plot is basically we have Don Corleone, who's Vito Corleone, played by Marlon Brando, and is the mafia head of the Corleone family in New York. And he has a few sons. He has a Sonny Corleone, and he has Michael Corleone, played by Al Pacino. We have Connie Corleone, who got married to a Carlo in the beginning to a movie, who is the son-in-law of Don, or Vito Corleone. And he also has a godson called Johnny Fontaine. And he also has a lawyer, and is a lawyer that specifically handles him. And this lawyer is Tom Higgins, and he also acts as a consigliere, which is a consultant of sorts. And then we have the movie itself, which I wouldn't say it feels like two different movies in one movie, in that the first half is about a guy named Salazzo and how he wants to start, having business relations with the Corleone family, and he's a drug dealer. He is the boss of a drug operation, of a cocaine operation, and he wants to make money with the Corleones. If the Corleones provide him legal protection and all that stuff, then Salazzo will provide the Corleone family with a lot of money. However, the Corleone family didn't want to get their hands dirty in drug business, so the Corleone family refused, or more like Vito Corleone refused Salazzo, so Salazzo was, I guess, kind of pissed, And also at the same time, Salazzo actually, or more like the another mob family, the Tattaglia family, had Salazzo's back, so that the Tattaglias and the Corleones had bad blood because of it. And then we have the second half of the movie where, because of how Michael Corleone handled the Tattaglia and Salazzo situation, many other families began to be, displeased with how the Corleones handle this kind of situation. So there's a bit of a dispute and war that happened in the second half as well. And that's pretty much the movie. Now, again, this movie is a really ultra realistic depiction, very believable depiction of what the mafia is like. They're not really like a bunch of villains like just sitting around, ooh, let's murder this person or something. Like it's very much realistic, and that's very impressive because it's a movie that came out in the 1970s, in the early 1970s, and back then movies, they don't try to be realistic. They try to be very entertaining and all over the place, because it sells. But Francis Ford Coppola says, you know what? I'm gonna make a 3-hour long, super duper realistic movie about mafia. Here we go. And it's also very mature. The violence is very mature. None of the scenes feel cheesy or over the top. Everything feels really real and grounded. And let's get into the technical aspect as well. This is one thing that really blows my mind, is that given that this movie is made in or is released in 1972, the technical aspects of this movie is actually really, really great. I love the sound editing of the movie, and it's not that the sound editing of this movie is one of the best of all times. I mean, in comparison with the sound editing and the sound mixing of the movies nowadays, this movie is normal, right? But what's special about The Godfather is that this movie kind of revolutionized sound editing, especially in the first half, or more like the first hour. First half an hour of the movie, where we have this wedding scene and they have to play this wedding music in the back while having people sounds, while having dialogues, and the way they sort of layer them is actually really revolutionary. Second of all, the costumes. I know that basically all of the characters in this movie wear suits, but there are several sets of costumes that I think are really good, really well designed, and that really fits the character, especially for the opening scenes. When Michael Corleone entered the movie, he's in some sort of military suit, which is because in the movie apparently he's a war hero, so he's in a military suit, he's trying to serve the country, be a good citizen, and then as the movie progresses, at the end he wears a mafia suit. And we also have the red rose on Vito Corleone's breast pocket in his suit as well. The very white, sparkling suit of Johnny Fontaine shows how he's sort of in the show business rather than in the mafia business. And we also have Sonny Corleone's costume, which is more laid back, more street styled, which shows how he's not that smart, but very violent and tempered. So yeah, the costumes is definitely one of the highlights in the technical aspects of this movie. Another thing I really like about this movie is the music. I didn't expect this, but the theme of The Godfather is actually pretty iconic and pretty well composed. In fact, the music in this movie, they are like Italian music, basically. So it doesn't feel very modern. It feels very old school, and there's a certain sadness to it, which is also one of the reasons why going into this movie I thought this would be one very intense, suspenseful mafia action crime drama, but actually it's equal parts intense violent drama and equal parts tragedy. Another thing I like is the editing, especially in the climax of the movie, the baptism scene, which is very iconic and shocking. The editing is really, really nice as well. I also think the cinematography is one of the strongest things in this movie. A lot of scenes are really, really, really well shot, well composed, especially the scenes that are supposed to be very dim, very dark. It's not supposed to be very bright. and we all see shadows and little light here and there, and it's all presented very beautifully and maturely. I mean, Francis Ford Coppola, I forgot if Apocalypse Now is before this or after this. I think after this. And Apocalypse Now has some of the most iconic cinematography in cinematic history. So, the director, he's amazing, And of course, you can't talk about The Godfather without talking about its acting. Every single person, every single actor in this movie did a great job, and none of them overdo their roles. You may think that being in the mafia would be like, life and death, but actually a lot of them keep calm. But some of them are more bad-tempered, some of them are a little bit more laid back, and all the acting is really, really amazing, especially for Marlon Brando's acting, one of the most iconic performances of all time. It's just Marlon Brando is doing this that I cannot do. And that's a very bad impression. that I cannot do. The acting's great. What can I say? And also there are a lot of quotable quotes in this movie. Again, we trust in America. The first 4 words of the movie, which is really, really I guess memorable. And then that I cannot do. I will make him an offer he can't refuse, which is a repeated line over and over again. We have look how they massacred my boy, and we have so many other quotables that I probably forgot, but there is a lot. There is a lot. And now I'm going to go over some of my favorite scenes in the movie. Now, this movie is 3 hours long, so there are a lot of good scenes, but I'm gonna go over them. The opening scene, I love it. The way it sort of slowly zooms out of a character, and the character is very minor. In fact, this is the only scene the character shows up, and this character sort of tells his problems to Vito Corleone, and in the first shot, we don't see Vito Corleone. We only see a shadow of him, which is really nice, but in the second shot, he shows up, and the way he acts, he's very laid back, he's very chilled, calm. But you can tell people are afraid of him and people have a respect for him. So it's a really, really well done opening scene. And then we have the wedding scenes, which basically spans for the entire first 30 minutes of the movie. And even though nothing really happens, I really like how the characters are being introduced in the movie. And the entrance of Michael Corleone, I like that a lot. I like, because earlier on in the wedding scenes, when the photographer was about to take a photo, Vito Corleone was like, nope, we will not take the photo until Michael is here. So we had to wait a while until Michael shows up, and oh, that guy's Michael, and Michael's in a military suit. And then Johnny Fontaine comes on, and these girls are just screaming around him. And even though he doesn't really have a big role in the movie, I guess this is also one pretty important character moment for him. And yeah, so the wedding scenes are really, really well done. We get a lot of dancing, laughing, singing, and it's very realistic. It feels very grounded. And then there's this one, there are a few scenes in the beginning of the movie where Johnny Fontaine wants to get a part in a war movie, and the director says no, so Johnny Fontaine asks for Vito Corleone's help, and so Vito Corleone decided to give the director an offer he can't refuse, and it's that scene though. Wow. And another scene that I really like is the fruit assassination scene. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. It came so quick, it came so sudden. It's not like, oh, someone's looking at me funny, like what's going on, oh, I need to be more careful now, oh, I need to go now. Like, there's no tension, it just happens. The end. It just came out of nowhere, and it's very realistic, but also it's very well shot. It has to be him just trying to buy some fruits, it's not him, taking a stroll or something. It's the most unlikely situation, yet it happened. Oh my god, one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie is the hospital scene. No action happened, not really, but the suspense, it's really there. You can really feel it. So this very important character is injured and is in the hospital, and the antagonists will come to the hospital and assassinate him. And for some reason, when Michael Corleone entered the hospital, there were no one other than one nurse. And he's like, okay, listen, we have to move this patient who is on this hospital bed to another room. And so they were moving the hospital bed to another room, and at any given moment the bad guys are going to show up, or the antagonists are going to show up. And then we have Enzo the baker, who showed up out of nowhere, and Michael Corleone sort of explained the situation to Enzo, and they had to stand outside of the hospital door and put their hands in their pockets to pretend that they have a gun to scare away people. And that's a really, really good scene. One of my favorite scenes in the movie, actually. I don't know if this is my favorite or the climax is my favorite, but there's a scene where Michael Corleone is like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna handle this situation. I know that this situation, the way I'm gonna handle this is going to be very extreme, but it had to be done. So he came up with this very, well, not very elaborate, but this very indirect plan to sort of kill off a couple people in a restaurant. And it's very suspenseful when you're in Michael Corleone's perspective. Actually, throughout the entire movie, if we have the perspectives of other families, it would be so much more action. Like, we would see the Tatalias planning the assassination, but we are only in Corleone's perspective. And in his perspective, we feel the danger, we feel the suspense, and that's very intense. And then we have the second half of the movie. I'm not a huge fan of these scenes, even though I feel like these scenes are essential to building Michael Corleone's characters, though these scenes are not necessarily all that entertaining or interesting or anything. And these scenes are Michael Corleone after doing what he had to do. He went to Sicily, Italy, to hide. And he just hides there for a very, very long time. So long that I don't even know how long it has been, but it's very long. And he sees this woman, and his bodyguards are like, in Sicily, women are more dangerous than guns, which is a really, really good quote as well. I forgot to mention that in the restaurant scene earlier, there is a part where Italian is being spoken and there is no translation of it, and I thought the fact that there's no translation of that Italian makes the scene even better, because we're confused, we don't know what's going on. I mean, the guy said a lot about Familia de Italia and padri, which I believe means father, so I have a lot of respect for father, Vito Corleone, and also the word business. But we sort of can't hear anything because in Michael Corleone's perspective, there is nothing to be listened to. There is nothing he's thinking of other than murder. So I thought the fact that the Italian is not being translated just makes the scene even more suspenseful. Anyways, the Sicily scenes, they're not bad. But I wouldn't say they're all that great, other than the last scene, which is so sudden, and I was fucking shocked. I was like... anyways, we have another hit scene, where another very important character gets killed off, in sort of this, I forgot what's this, highway station. And again, it came so sudden and it's so brutal, and that scene's very memorable. Another really memorable scene is Connie Corleone breaking plates because her husband is being very abusive towards her, so she threw a huge tantrum, breaking all the plates, all the antiques in the house. And that scene is a long take, and it's a pretty impressive long take, even though it's not like the longest take ever. I really like that. And apparently, when the movie is done, someone said, oh, if this movie's more violent, then it will attract more people, so this scene is added in. Anyways, the climax scene where where Michael Corleone becomes the godfather of Connie's son, and Connie's son is being baptized, and we sort of see a montage of people getting killed, people getting hurt, and we see Michael Corleone just saying, "Yes, I renounce the devil. Yes, I believe in God," and it's just like, wow, just the evil behind that, you know. He's just putting up a face, and all the dirty work he's actually doing in the back. And in fact, this scene kind of inspired one really, really iconic scene in Breaking Bad at the end, near the end of season 5A. And given how influential is Breaking Bad, and given that that scene in Breaking Bad probably is inspired by this scene in The Godfather, it's just The Godfather is truly The Godfather. And then we have the ending scene, which I really like as well. It's nothing crazy, but it's very symbolic in that Michael Corleone's wife tries to look at Michael Corleone from a distance in a room, and then in her perspective, she sees people kissing Michael Corleone's hand, and then another person shutting the door behind him. And it's just very symbolic. It's like Michael Corleone had changed. People have a certain respect for him now, and it's not necessarily a good thing. It's almost dehumanizes him. And yeah, that's all. That's that. These are all my thoughts on the movie. So yeah, I'm definitely going to rewatch this. It's not the most enjoyable cinematic experience I've ever had. I'm gonna be honest here. I thought this movie is going to be like, oh my god, like really, really front to back, edge of my seat. But actually, it's not that. It's actually a bit of a tragic story as well. But still, from the technical standpoint, from the way the story is being told, from the acting, from the style and the tone of the movie, this movie is one very impressive masterpiece. And I just really, really like it. And I'm saying The Godfather is it's really great. It's mind blowing, and I'm giving it a strong 9 to a 10 out of 10. So, have you watched The Godfather? From 1 to 10, how much did you rate it? Like if you like it, and subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching. I will watch Tenet in theaters, in cinema, once it comes out in Hong Kong, which is September 10th.